Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the stream again. Once again, one of the many fish in the sea, Ninomae Karei. Oh, thank you for the follow, Wolf Aether. Oh, and thank you for the redeem as well. Yes, and today is the third installment of our um unspecified length of podcast series. Oh gosh.
Oh no! I'm so sorry.
Oh gosh.
I didn't know that
All right, perfect,
would
perfect.
happen.
All right, yeah, this is quality content as you could see.
I'm so
No,
sorry.
you're
My
good.
stuff is my stuff is carrying over to your stream.
You're good. You're good. All right, yeah. As always, yeah, this is a series of where we kind of explore what VTubing is, especially on the indie side of VTubing, because as you can see, we both are indie VTubers and whatnot. So our guest today, um, is our very own Remi. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Yes, and
How's everyone doing?
yeah, hopefully everyone's having a good time. We figured out how to actually get the model on screen. Yeet. But yes. So I guess like to start off with things, I guess we're just gonna do like kind of a shorter interview, or I guess it's pretty short, but like, yeah, when did you start getting into VTubing and like why, like kind of how you got, I guess, exposed to the rabbit hole per se of VTubing in general.
Um, let me I think it was earlier this year, actually, very, very near the start of the year, maybe a little into like December of 2020. I've had a few friends who are Hololive fans, and they would occasionally send me Hololive clips, and then I would be like, "Oh, haha, this is funny." Not really knowing what it was, like what the whole concept of VTubing was. Um, but when you watch like one or two things regarding a subject, all of a sudden your YouTube recommendation is full of more recommendations of the same thing. And so I kind of fell into this rabbit hole of Hollow Live, and that's kind of what introduced me into VTubing. Um, and after a while, I kind of was just thinking, I was like, one day, all of a sudden, I was like, I want to be a VTuber. I want to be a VTuber. And then I told some of my friends, I was like, all right, listen up, I'm gonna be a VTuber. And then, like within 1 or 2 weeks, I like drew up, rigged my very first model, and I was like, all right, I'm a VTuber now. And that was back in, I think, end of March, right? So like 9 months later, here we are. I've been having lots of fun with streaming. Everything's been pretty chill, and that was my path to VTubing.
Yeah, I remember like it's like you click on, yeah, like you said, you click on one video and all of a sudden your like whole like um recommendations is like full of it. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't escape. It's too late. I'm already in. I can't escape. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so like since you've been, I think VTubing, if I do the math right, since math is hard, 9
math is hard.
months. Yes, December. It's December now, and you started in
Hmm.
March, so 9 months. Yes. So how's your experience so far with VTubing and just like kind of like, I guess the streaming like scene in general?
I like it. I mean, I wouldn't say like, oh, it's all great 100% of the time. Sometimes you have run-ins with, um, unpleasant viewers, unpleasant chatters, or you get into, well, not. I mean, I personally haven't gotten into any like VTuber drama, but I've seen it happen, right? I'm just super thankful it's never happened to me. But it really isn't like, I mean, it's just like normal streaming, It's
Mm-hmm.
you're just streaming, but instead of using your real face, you're using a virtual face. Um, and I think I honestly didn't expect to enjoy streaming this much. It has brought like a lot of joy into my life, both streaming and also like meeting people through streaming. So I think overall it's been a really great experience.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, especially like how VTubing, it's like you get to meet so many people pretty fast. Like it's kind of like how on Twitter, it's like, oh yeah, you're a VTuber now. All right, cool. Like here's all this resources. Here's all like the networking or like I guess quote unquote networking and all the stuff. Like and it's just like all in your face immediately, and it's really cool like how VTubing allows for that. So I guess like from that, I guess I want to ask like, since you started VTubing, and especially like how it's been like almost 2 years of COVID, is there like any difference in like how your social circles kind of operate, or like kind of like how um, I guess you like socialize like online and offline?
I think so. Well, because of COVID, everyone is stuck at home, right? We don't go out as often, and even now that things are starting to open up again, it's like I'm so used to sort of staying at home that I very rarely find myself going outside in social situations.
Hmm.
Um, I think the biggest change for sure would be that I spend a lot more time in front of a screen. Because there just isn't as many opportunities to socialize, like, face to face. Also because like a lot of my friends, because of COVID, have moved, like either moved home to different locations or just like moved elsewhere.
Hmm.
That like meeting up in person even now is not as easy as it used to be. And so I think the biggest change for sure would be the amount of time I spend on Discord.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Especially, I think like it's kind of like that. Oh, COVID makes us stay inside. Well, I stay inside anyway, right? It's just like whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool. What's new? Except if I go outside, I might die, right? But like,
Yeah.
yeah, get your shot, folks. Yeah, get boosted, all that stuff. Become a personal hotspot. Anyway, yeah. Um, because of I feel like, yeah, and I think VTubing has become like such a, I guess like more prevalent thing, especially with like as you said, where everyone's like kind of at home, chilling in front of their screen, and just kind of like trying to get like or make new friends through there. And I think I guess like are you using that kind of like experience in like like the online social like aspect of I guess like for lack of a better word like friendship? Are you using that? Going to be using any of that to I guess like transition more into an offline setting. I don't know if that is the best way to ask that question. It's just like I guess like it's like are you gonna like do the same thing as you're doing before during COVID as well as like kind of like what you're going to take from there into like going forward.
Uh, Let me see. I think I think like if I had the chance, for sure I would love to meet like more people in person. The only thing is now that my friend circle has hugely changed, right? Like the majority of the people that I interact with now are other VTubers. Um, and because of the way that VTubing is such an like online space, um, that means that, you know, people like VTubers come from literally all over the world, right? Which makes it very hard to have sort of like offline meetups. And so I do feel lucky when I get to meet friends like IRL, we hung out a couple times. I've hung
Mm-hmm.
out with a few other VTuber friends. Um, I do think ideally I would love to have more sort of face-to-face meetups, but due to the fact that location is an issue, I think compared to before COVID, I will probably still be spending more time online than offline.
Hmm. Okay, yeah. I feel like yeah, I think kind of the same for me, but you know, if anyone's on the West Coast, FanimeCon 2022 actually happened. It's gonna be really fun, and you could like meet up and stuff if you'd like to. But yeah, it's for sure like how I think for me as well. It's just like meeting so many people online for especially through like VTubing, Caliber, and like other things and whatnot, and even through like other VTuber circles. It's just like kind of like you're always going to meet someone new. It's like kind of like if you just kind of take the chance and take the leap, you're just like, oh, there's a VTuber channel, click, and then it's just like, oh, new friends, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess through this like the experience of VTubing, I also want to ask if you is do you find it like easier to express yourself as a VTuber as opposed to like if you actually like streamed with your like IRL face, like as someone who's done like both for I guess like a significant amount of time, I think like the I think there I guess is somewhat of a difference for me, but like how about for you, if you would even consider like streaming, like if you've ever considered streaming with just your IRL face, you know.
Um, well, so for me, I think I started VTubing because I thought the idea of sort of having um like a different avatar to represent me was exciting, right? I'm not against like streaming with my IRL face. In fact, I do believe I have done that before. Um, but I'm not sure if I would say that it's easier to express myself as a VTuber. I think for me personally, I would maybe feel the same about streaming with whether it's with a VTuber avatar or like a camera.
Hmm.
Um, I do think that a VTubing avatar is limited, right? In terms of expression, sort of reactions. Um, with like interacting with the content, I think having an IRL like face cam would, more accurately like portray your reactions, right? Or like your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I haven't really streamed much with an IRL cam, so it's hard for me to compare the experiences. But I do feel that like because because my VTuber is more limited in terms of like expressions, tend to talk more to compensate for that,
Mm.
right? Not that necessarily it's a bad thing, but it is something that I've noticed that I tend to talk a lot more.
I feel like I feel like that's also like a good thing too. Just like fill the space, because especially I think for some VTuber models like mine, I guess it's just like really scuffed. So like um to make up for that, it's just like I have to do more, kind of thing. Um
Mhm.
yeah, because I've noticed for me it's like, oh, if I like really pop off because I like did some crazy read or whatever, I'll like my model just goes haywire, and I was like, I don't want my viewers to see my like model like go crazy, like all that stuff. So like I think yeah, for sure there are differences and whatnot, and yeah, I think it just I guess depends on the person.
Yeah, I think it's completely up to, the streamer and what they're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sure, a lot of people go into VTubing because they're more comfortable sort of having an avatar rather than having their face on screen, which
Mm-hmm.
is, super valid. And I don't think that, you know, any particular way of streaming is better or worse. It's just different.
Right. And I think like especially now that I mean, if you go like I guess 1.5 years ago, VTubing is like super niche. Like pretty
Hmm.
much the only prevalent ones are like corporate, and then you have like very small amount of it like I guess like prevalent, like Natsume Moe and like even like Nyanners, like she's pretty like early as well and stuff. It's just like so niche, but now it's just like, oh yeah, there's like so many VTubers out there, and yeah, honestly, there's like a VTuber for everyone. It's like you like the certain thing, yeah, you can probably find it in like 5 minutes. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
right, and like I guess speaking of other VTubers, it's like because there's so much like community driven kind of like that's what I've noticed going into VTubing. It's like everything's like community and like getting together and kind of like making yourself known out there, kind of like, but kind of like not in a competitive sense, but like I want to know you exist or something like that. And
Hmm.
I guess like that goes into like hand in hand with like networking and like marketing, I guess, with like VTubing. It's like kind of like how are you gonna reach out and stuff that because VTubing you're streaming, but like honestly, personally, like it's pretty daunting, right? If you're like streaming and you're like no one's really watching, like yeah, you're having fun, but it's just like well, there's also that aspect. But
Right.
yeah, because at the end of the day, like you're streaming because you want people to see you. So I guess like we could talk about some of the weird things or maybe some of the common things we see about like indie VTuber like Twitter. Like I think that'll be pretty fun because I feel like Twitter is like the main VTuber spot. Like I don't see any like VTuber threads on like Facebook or like Tumblr or whatever. I don't know. I only use like Twitter these days anyway. But like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, before VTubing, I like barely used Twitter. But now it's just like Twitter is like the main thing for to go, I guess. But yeah, like I guess the first I guess like we go over like have you ever like seen those posts? It's like I don't know, it's like for example, East Coast VTubers like put your PNG or whatever and just like kind of network through there and like kind of like post something and whatnot. Like have you ever done those before? Like
I haven't, but I've seen them very often. I think it can be a good thing if, the poster actually goes through the replies and, tries to interact with the other people who, sort of putting themselves out there. But what I have seen happen more often is sort of, um, and by no means am I sort of like pointing fingers or calling anyone out, but is these like bigger VTubers who make these Twitter threads that's like, hey, smaller VTubers, like introduce yourself in the replies, um, like let's network. And more often than not, the end result of those type of threads is that the bigger VTuber, um, gets so many interactions, all these follows from these threads, and they don't go into the replies at all if, like only a little bit, if anything, right?
hmm,
I've seen this happen multiple times, and it's very, very discouraging, I feel, right? If you are, like a new VTuber trying to put yourself out there, and
hmm,
you see this opportunity that ends up being a, like dead end, where the original poster doesn't interact with at all, and if anything, it's the people in the replies sort of interacting with each other.
hmm.
I think that they're largely unproductive. That's that's how I feel about them.
Yeah, I think like it's okay. And then the best case scenario, like let's say everyone follows each other, like on
Yeah.
Twitch. Let's so pretty much now you have like 100 content creators following each other. But the problem is everyone's content creating. They're not gonna
Right.
most likely
Exactly.
they're not gonna like be watching like it like I guess like because like number obviously because from that like obviously numbers aren't everything. That's a huge like example of like why numbers aren't everything. It depends on your community, right? And it's just like you're kind of inflating the amount of followers you have, but like but your like average viewer stays the same and like you don't see growth and whatnot. And yeah, and that kind of ultimately will hurt newer VTubers in the long run.
Right.
And I guess like I feel like going about it naturally is probably the best way to do it. It's just like do what you do and people will like you, people will like you, right? It's just like kind of like yeah, just vibe out, have a good time.
Yeah. And the thing with I think Twitter is that Twitter and Twitch are inherently different platforms, right? So like numbers on Twitch are not going to translate to numbers on Twitter and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Um and so what I do is I sort of approach both platforms with a different mindset, right? Like when I go onto Twitter, I'm expecting to see other VTubers interact with other VTubers, right? When I stream on Twitch, it's less of that and it's more of Twitch viewers, like people who watch Twitch streams.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this actually reminds me of one tweet that I saw that it was um it was sort of like a bigger VTuber, at least on Twitter. I think they had 7, 8,000 followers on Twitter. And they were kind of complaining about they're like, oh, like I have so many followers on Twitter, but my viewing average on Twitch is still really low. Um, and the whole like reason for that is because they're completely separate platforms.
Right.
And also the fact that, a lot of their followers on Twitter are probably other content creators, right? And it's like obviously they're creating their own content. They're streaming at their own times and can't always make it to, everyone else's streams. And so I think like the most important thing is to just approach them with a different mindset, right? Like you can't expect people on Twitter to watch you on Twitch and you can't expect people on Twitch to follow you on Twitter.
Right. I mean, there could be some integration with the two, but like, yeah, as you said, yeah, it's very, I guess, wise to keep them separate because it's not gonna like, yeah, like as the previous example, it's just like, yeah, that's like you're inflating your numbers on one place, but you can't just like get them all to like come to another place. It's like even like in like with other like when like a popular streamer gets a um like another deal with like another platform. It's like you're not going to get all like 2 million of your followers going to like that new platform. It's like you have to like create an argument. It's like, oh, you got to come. And most likely, I mean, they get paid enough, so they don't care. But like, yeah. Yeah. So like, yeah, Twitter networking, go at your own risk. It's fun sometimes. And yeah, just honestly, you can just make it a meme and whatnot. But yeah, there's some like other weird things I've seen. Like, ooh, like anyone who's been to my stream, I always talk trash about this. It's just like I'll go on Twitter and then I'll see like model reveal, like crazy amount of likes. I'm like clicking on their Twitter profile. I'm like, all right, enough said. But like now that I think about like now that I think about it, it's like okay, if you look at it from a corporate perspective, it's just like, oh, it's Christmas, so Mio is gonna have her new like outfit, which is very cute, by the way. You should see it. But like, yeah, and they'll like do a reveal like that, and they don't even have to like hit like declare a milestone. It's just like here it is. But I feel like,
Yeah.
and then I feel like for I guess an indie VTuber to get that same amount of like attention, it's just like, oh, I need to add an incentive, right? Or I need to add
Right.
like
Yeah.
interaction. But like without an audience or without a pre like existing audience, it's just like, dang, it's just like it's kind of sad. Like it's not like it's pretty based, not gonna lie. It's just like you do you. Like I believe in your spirit, but it's just like, oh man, like I really hope you get those likes. It's just like because if I'm seeing it, I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. And I'm a VTuber and I like how is like another like random consumer gonna like be like, yep, click like, right? So it's just like you kind of have to create that audience and just be like, I want to make content, or I want to be that content that people will actually like be like, oh, I want to see this kind of thing. And kind of like in the early days of like the VTuber boom, I guess. Like I don't know the exact time, but it was like January through like April where there was like everyone's like, I'm a VTuber now. It's just like
Mhm.
you see so many of these like gimmicky posts and you're like, wow, I hope that a lot of people do commit. But yeah, VTubing is expensive. Like it's really expensive, especially if you're not an artist. You're like, yeah, get ready to drop hundreds, maybe like not thousands, unless you're like buying an IV model. But if you're buying an IV model, you're probably already rich, so it's fine. But yeah, yeah. So
Yeah. No, wait,
no,
carry on.
no, 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 I was no. Go ahead, go ahead. I like lost my
Oh no,
train.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
But going back to the model reveal thing is I've seen it succeed and I've seen it be unsuccessful, right? And the main thing about sort of these model reveals is it's I think it's one thing to have, like, oh, likes or retweets as an incentive, and it's another thing to have follows as an incentive. And so I think when when a model reveal, especially for like a new and upcoming VTuber, when a model reveal has followers as an incentive, I think they more often than not tend to be unsuccessful because it's kind of like, well, I don't know who you are and I don't know what kind of content you create. And so there's no real incentive to follow you because like they haven't even done anything yet, right?
Mm,
Um and so as you mentioned, like corporate VTubers they have a set audience already. And it's already established, like there are existing fans. So, obviously people are going to be excited because they know what to expect, right? The thing with a lot of these like model reveals is like we don't know what to expect because we don't like know who they are. We haven't seen their content. Um
mm.
and this is a little off topic, but kind of brings me to one thing that I have seen happen a while ago, um, when Hololive Iris debuted.
Oh, I remember that.
First day Iris was on Twitter, right? I think her Twitter her like account got like blocked, right, by Twitter because there were just so many followers at once.
Hmm.
Um, like innocent followers, like so many people. Um, and it's because she's a corporate VTuber, right? It's because like she's part of Hololive. There's brand loyalty. People who watch Hololive are more likely to watch new members of Hololive. Um, it- and what I remember about that was I think it was an independent VTuber that was like, like, oh, indie VTubers would never get this kind of attention on debut, right?
Oh yeah,
Um,
I remember this.
And it's like, okay, but of course you wouldn't because no one knows who you are, right? That's it's unproductive to like expect corporate numbers when you're an indie VTuber. And it's also like the fact that Hololive has worked so hard. Hololive has worked so hard to build their audience. Um, like they started out with practically nothing and they are now like one of the biggest, um if not like the largest sort of in terms of audience, like corporate VTuber setting, right?
Hmm.
And then it's just unrealistic to expect that, you know, that sort of like brand loyalty is not going to apply to indie VTubers because there's no brand, right?
Yeah, and it's like I mean, if you're gonna make a dumb opinion on Twitter, you better make it count. Obviously, didn't really go the way this VTuber wanted to, and you know, it's just like, oh, yep, put on your clown nose. We going on a trip, right? So it's like, yeah, I feel like, yeah, if you're, yeah, it's like corporate VTubing is like a completely different like animal you're
Yeah,
taming, right? It's just like,
it's a whole new ball field.
yeah, it's just like, and that's why like I'm not gonna be talking about like corporate VTubing as an indie VTuber. I mean, like, yeah, there are certain things that like have issues with about corporate VTubing, but that I guess is for a later date. But like, yeah, it's just like as an indie VTuber, it's just like you're gonna have to like do a lot of stuff for free, I guess, quote unquote, and like not get results for it. And
Yeah. And like what Yona said is having a model isn't going to bring you attention, right? Which is why those model reveals don't translate into viewers. Um like what as a streamer, it's your content that people are watching for,
mm-hmm,
right? Like a model is just like a nice little side piece. Um and I've seen like insanely successful PNG tubers. I've seen, you know, really successful VRoid streamers. And what I think a lot of people don't realize is um, that they think that getting like this nice expensive model is going to buy them success, right? Which, you know, maybe initially it does.
mm-hmm,
But depending on like how their content output is, right? It could either go up or down, you know?
right. And like, yeah, it's just like as long as your content is good, people will flock. It's just like you kind of just like have to, you know what, you just gotta play the cards you're given, and sometimes you can get some nice ass cards like I guess like per se like any trading card game is like, yeah, you could like build a deck out of like a box, but then you just buy really expensive ass singles and you start winning tournaments. But sometimes you just get outplayed or you brick. It's just like feels bad, but like that's life. Like I don't know what to say. Like it's just like there's a lot of expectations. I notice indie VTubers, especially newer indie VTubers have, and yeah, and it's just really important to kind of check your surroundings and kind of like do a self examination of where you're at and what you got to do. However, because indie VTubers could do whatever the fuck they want, um, I mean, it's just like you see a lot of like community in that, and we see a lot of like I think like something that indie VTubers do slightly better than corporate, in my opinion. Like I think Whole Life's just started doing this more often, but it's like there's collabs everywhere. Like you see a
Mhm.
collab pretty much like every day almost, and sometimes it's just like sometimes like a VTuber will do more collabs with than like them just doing content on their own, and yeah, it's just like depends on what you do, and like I guess like for collabs like online, like how would you feel? I mean, how do you feel about collabs? I guess it with streaming.
I think they're really fun. I like watching them. I love watching collabs. Especially if it's like, you know, if I know one of the streamers or like, you know, both, or if I'm like familiar with them, it's like, you know, s- being able to see the interaction, I think is brings like a new side to streaming.
Mm.
And I love doing collabs myself because I just really like playing games with my friends. That's
Yeah, it's like I guess like the most genuine moments come from like collabs. Like you'll see a lot of clips in general with like VTubers, like indie or not, or like corporate. It's just like you'll see like the dumbest shit happen, and you're like, this
yeah.
is content. It's just like, but they're just being themselves. I feel like, yeah, and I think like collabs in general, or like just being in a group, is just like kind of the essence of indie VTubing, and like kind of like from like a previous kind of podcast I did with guest of mine, he goes by Komai. He was talking about how he was noticing like pretty much VTubers, like pretty much ones that have like settled and like kind of know what they're doing, just kind of naturally do collabs. And I think like that's like really cool. I think there's a beauty in that, and just like how indie VTubers could just go out and be like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm hosting this. Come by. We're gonna have fun. And
Mhm.
obviously like there might be like an incident or two, but like in the grand scheme of things, it's just like super good. Like I don't know what to say. Like I think like seeing this is like I should do more collabs, but like, but yeah, I think yeah, I think it's good for especially newer VTubers to do so, and it's kind of like really good to like kind of tread the water, see what's going on, and all that stuff.
Yeah, and it helps with like, interacting with other VTubers and making friends. And it's like, you know, a while back, I don't know if a lot of people or like a lot of, you know, obviously a lot of my current viewers were not here for that because this is a month, maybe 2 months into my streaming, um, is when I organized that Among Us collab.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Um, and I think the thing with collabs is some people are very hesitant to go into collabs when it comes to certain games because especially if it's, your first time playing a game with someone, you don't know really like how they are when they play games.
Hmm.
Um, because like I've heard of like, you know, friends who like, someone comes into their chat and is like, "Hey, can I play with you?" And they're like, "Okay, yeah, sure." Right? And it turns out to be a really bad experience because of like, that person has bad sportsmanship or is just overstepping a lot of boundaries. Um, and so I think when it comes to sort of first time collabs, you have to be very careful what
Hmm.
type of game you play, right? And that's why when I organized the collab, I was like, "Okay, I wanna play Among Us, but, like, not regular Among Us, um, Among Us Tag," because that's just, like it's, like, you don't have to think a lot, it's nothing like it's just, uh, like, what's the word for it? It's just, like
I don't know. It's like it takes less brain, and you don't have to like
yeah.
argue with people and like
Yes,
question
yes,
someone's character, right?
yes, there's a lot, like, less chance of people taking things personally, right? If because of the fact that like that collab was, the first time that I have interacted with certain people, and also, everyone else in the collab, their sort of common, what's it called? Like common contact was just me, right? A lot of people in the club had not interacted with each other either. And so to relieve like sort of some of the tension that could have happened, right? Had we played regular Among Us, like, people might be like, "Hey, why are you suspecting me?"
Hmm.
Stuff like that. Um, that's why, like, I was like, "Okay, well, we should play tag because we were just running around screaming and having fun."
Yeah, I think yeah, I think that was like one of the first collab like big collabs I've ever done. Like props to you for like setting it all up. It's just like, wow, that's like 9 other VTubers. I could barely count to 9. Like this is really fun. But like yeah, it's like you kind of have to take that like chance, right? It's just like, all right, if I put one bad apple, it just spoils the whole like batch, right? It's just like especially for
Mhm.
VTubing because it's like people are just super like dynamic, I guess. Like you don't know what to expect. And like it's kind of like you're like coin flipping for a good time, like especially if you like don't know them. And luckily like it really happened. Like it was really fun and yeah, and I think that's like one of the really good like examples that of like collabs with indie VTubers. Like all of us were indie VTubers, all of us had a good time. It was just like, yeah, good stuff.
Mhm.
Right. And as you said, like as you mentioned before, like you wanted to like do like kind of face to face with more VTubers and stuff. I think especially with conventions happening, and especially like VTubing being more prevalent and more related to like kind of like the anime community. I think like kind of I guess your opinion or like kind of like thoughts on I guess like networking and making friends around that kind of aspect of like meeting VTubers offline.
Yeah, I think that would be fun. Um, I've always sort of been one to make friends online and then meet them after the fact. I think like the number of people that I've met online and then we like hung out offline is is more than I can count on my fingers, and I can't count past how many fingers I have. Um, but I do remember this was um before VTubing, before VTubing. I think it was for like Anime Expo in 2019. I had the opportunity to meet with like a huge group of friends that I had previously like shared a common video game with. Um and it was really cool because, they all had their own plans to sort of like, fly out or drive out and find places to stay. And we all just like happened to converge, right? Like in
Hmm.
in one place, and it was really fun. We all got dinner, we went karaoke. Um and so I think like that, but with VTubing would also be really fun. um just because I like, I'm the kind of person who just likes to meet new people and, like hang out. Like I think if I had the opportunity to spend time with a group of VTuber friends,
Hmm.
I think that would be really fun. And with like a convention sort of setting, right? There's like activities that you can do, right? You don't really have to like stress out about like, oh, what is everyone gonna enjoy? Like what should we do? Because you're out in a convention, right? There's already that sort of like pre-built like list of activities that we can all do together. And I think that
Mm.
would potentially be really cool.
Yeah. I have this like joke that I like to it's like, oh yeah, there's gonna be like an anime convention, there's gonna be a VTuber meetup, and it's gonna be the biggest doxing in history. But
Ah, yes.
it's like VTuber meetup at 3:30. I'm like, ah. And like I'm pretty like there's gonna be like a percentage that they like cosplay as themselves. Like, ah, all right, I know, yeah, yeah, DashCon 2.0. Yeah, I feel like,
Oh no.
like it's. I mean, obviously, like if you're at a con, right, you're gonna have a good time. But it's just like, oh yeah, like even I think like at cons like where at was it Anime NYC where Hololive EN did their panel. I don't think like
Mhm.
um I think it was all virtual. I think they like streamed it or something. Like
Yeah,
yeah, they
yeah,
weren't
I
there
think so.
because there's a lot of people that are or a lot of the ENV tubers who are not in America and probably don't want to fly into New York City during COVID. So
Yeah, for sure.
right, and it's like yeah, and it's like at the end of the day, it's like yeah. I mean, at the end of yeah, as Jonas says, like you're just kind of like you're all the same pretty much. You're all VTubers. You're all just like making content. You're all like into anime, pretty much. Yeah, and it's just like a lower chance of not having a good time, I guess.
Yeah, and I think in terms of doxing, it's like if you're especially if you're meeting up with other VTubers, there's kind of this like, like umbrella understanding that we're not gonna like maliciously dox each other, you know?
Right.
And so in that sort of setting, it's like, well, I know your identity now and you know mine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like we have sort of this like unsaid trust that I
Right.
feel I feel safer, like doxing myself to other VTubers than to maybe like random people on the internet, you know?
Or safe blackmail. I mean, I mean, no, but like, yeah, I've also like no, I also like know like VTubers offline as well. So it's just like, yeah, there's that trust. It's like, yo, we're both content creators, and we both real. I mean, we both don't have it in our own agenda to like mess people up. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and personally for me, it's like if you really want to find out who I am, it's very very easy. You just need to search in the right places, and it's not very hard to do that. So it's just like, yeah, whatever. It's just like I think the I guess the social aspect, like offline, when it comes to networking with VTubers, especially at cons, I think it's gonna be a really fun experience. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a lot of fun. Be like, kind of like, oh yeah, this model with this person is just like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like, I do enjoy and appreciate like the design process of a lot of VTubing and whatnot. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. Like, especially like West Coast conventions. I'm trying to make all of them. So.
Yeah, and I think it's like less pressure too, because when you're among other VTubers, when you're like among other content creators,
Hmm.
um there isn't this pressure to perform, right? As we do on stream. And I think that will help that like that's like a benefit sort of to I think it would be fun to just meet up with other VTubers without, the pressure of like having to put up this this sort of like streamer personality.
Hmm.
And it's like slight segue. I'm not like, saying that when I stream, like I'm not being myself, right? Because my streaming sort of like personality is 100% me, right? I'm not like putting on like a fake sort of personality. I'm not putting on a fake voice. Um, but there is this sort of energy that I feel when I'm streaming that is hard to conjure up when I'm not streaming. And but I don't have a fake voice. um, and this sort of like this realization sort of hit me when we were it was one of the Genshin live streams that like my stream crashed, and so we ended up just watching it all together on Discord.
Hmm.
And like when I was on Discord, like in the Discord call, I found it extremely difficult to do keep up the same sort of energy and like commentary that I do on stream.
Yeah.
And it's because it's like I don't know, it's like an on off switch. Do you know what I mean? And it's not necessarily that I'm like not being myself when I'm streaming. It's just that like it's like a different facet of I'm not fake. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. It's like I feel like in general, like, um, I mean, like especially with streaming, it's like you're putting out content. You want the content to be good. Like, not gonna lie, like if you saw my signal chain, like from like me speaking into the microphone and all the stuff I put onto it, it's just like, yeah, like it's a lot of stuff that I do. And it's just like, yeah, obviously there's gonna be like certain changes, and sometimes like some expectations will be broken. But I think at the end of the day, like especially as an indie VTuber, it's just like there's like kind of no need to play character. It's just like you're you,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's perfectly okay. And the people are watching your content is because they enjoy you and your content, or maybe just you, or maybe just your content. But there's also nuances with that. But right, and it's just like so many like I guess like elements to it, like just like to into VTubing, especially like offline, online, all that stuff. Yeah. Um. But yeah, I think especially with like VTubing in general, it's like a little bit different from I guess like streaming with a camera. Um and like I guess like going over like especially like for indie VTubers, like what might be some advantages or disadvantages? I guess we could like start with advantages. Like as you said before, it's like you could kind of have this avatar that represents you, or like this model that represents you, which is really good because I guess it allows for people to kind of express themselves in a way that they might not be able to with a camera.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think like I guess like what might be some other advantages like you could think of that for indie VTubers that yeah, you know. Wow, I asked that very well.
I mean, safety is a huge thing, right? Is like because when you're VTubing, for people who don't face cam at all, right? There is like a huge sense of safety. Like people don't know what you look like. There's like less chance of people trying to find it's harder, right, to find your like personal information online. And so I think VTubing appeals to a lot of people because of that.
Mm,
Is like you get to sort of um be what's it called? Like start anew almost, right? Like
right.
there isn't like wow, no words are escaping my brain right now, but
Yeah, words are hard.
um words are difficult. English is hard. um my gears are turning. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, I could hear the like
um but yeah, no, like the anonymity of it is is a huge like thing that would, attract people to VTubing rather than face cam streaming.
Mm,
Um, but like anything, it has its downsides, right? It's like because you don't know who this is, like people sometimes will hide behind, sort of like this anonymous mask and do not so great things. But, for the most part, we're all just here to enjoy ourselves.
right. And I guess if we want to talk more into like deep stuff about this, it's just like, especially like a lot of I guess like indie VTubers that, at least from my experience, they're a lot of them are LGBTQ plus, and sometimes it's like they're in a situation where they're like they literally cannot like use a camera or like
Yeah.
and VTubing is like one of the best ways to like express yourself, and if you want to make content and express yourself, like it's just like such an amazing way to do so. And it's like literally like there's like no, almost no chance, especially for an indie VTuber. You're like, don't worry about getting doxxed as an indie VTuber, and if you get doxxed, it's probably because you want it to be. Like, it's like because like as an indie VTuber, you're like one, you just come out of nowhere and you're like, "Hi, I'm a VTuber." Like, and it's probably gonna separate your account, like that account from like all your actual personal accounts. So it's just like really hard for an indie VTuber to be doxxed, and
Yeah.
so you don't have to worry about that. Like, and especially like for like expressing yourself, it's just like yeah, there's like no like virtually no danger of like doing whatever the hell you want. Uh,
Mhm.
and like yeah, I've seen VTubers play characters. I've seen them like I don't know. There's some crazy like creative stuff out there, and it's just like yeah, it's really cool. And yeah, like especially like I don't know if you noticed this on Twitter or anything, but like pretty much like most VTubers are pretty similar, like personality wise. It's just like we're all like kind of like inside people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like the offline meeting, everyone's just like sitting quietly doing nothing. It's just like, oh.
Uh, when a bunch of introverts get together.
Yeah, just everyone is like sitting around the table and they're just doing nothing. It's just like, hopefully, like, no, but it's like, VTubing is pretty much like a safe space. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and obviously it's up to the community to uphold that. But yeah, I think it's just really good that there's so many, like, I guess, like, encouraging VTubers out there and like and encouraging like aspects of that community that really kind of like keep it knit together. I mean, outside of the drama and
Mhm.
whatnot. Yeah. Um, anything you want to add to that or?
No, I think you said it pretty well, yeah. I agree. Yes.
Ooh, okay. All right. So now we've talked about like the advantages, like the good stuff about VTubing, like, and like with like pertaining to like social anxiety or other like probably like unseen issues going on with an individual's life. What about like, are there any like disadvantages? Like what are, I guess, like possible issues or dangers to VTubing as a way to socialize with other people?
I think like anything, right? If too much of anything can be a bad thing, right? So, for example, if someone say were to become, like so invested, like so obsessed with like VTubing, whether it's a streamer or a viewer, it can like negatively affect their like life outside of it, right?
Mm,
If somebody invests, 100% of their energy into an online space, there's not going to be energy left to sort of cultivate a life outside of that.
mm,
I think that could potentially be something because VTubing is such a safe space and it's like such a comfortable space to exist in. Um I suspect that it could potentially be easier for someone to just get sucked into that, right?
right. It's like, yeah, you're already in the
Um
rabbit hole. It's just like,
yeah.
yeah, good luck getting out. But like, yeah, I think like, especially, I mean, VTubing is a lot more prevalent right now because like of everyone staying inside. But like, especially after, like, let's talk about post COVID. It's like VTubing is still niche. Like, I'm pretty sure like the common like, well, I mean, I live in America. The common American probably does not know what VTubing is. Like,
Yeah.
you go to Texas and you're like, hey, what's VTube? Like, you ask what someone what VTubing is. Yeah, chances are, yeah, no, they're not gonna get it.
Yeah.
Or you go to like middle of nowhere like Kansas, like yeah, they're not gonna know what VTubing is. So like, as you said, Remi, it's just like if you like only know social like dynamics of like online, it's just like yeah, you gotta like kind of figure out real quick how you're gonna balance your real life and like your online life, right? It's just like yeah, I mean, real life kind of sucks, like I guess in a kind of like in a joking way, but it's just like yeah, it's not cool. It's just like not really like there's not much for me, I guess. Like
Mhm.
in like from certain perspective, right? And like you just go online and like literally everything's online. Like you want something, you probably go on Amazon and find it. And like you
Yeah.
want like social interaction, there's Discord, there's Twitch, there's Twitter, there's like social platforms and networking, right? It's just like, but like yeah, and I guess getting too absorbed in it is just like yeah, not really going to help you in the long run.
Right. And it's because you can't curate real life the way you can curate your Twitter feed. Like if you don't like someone, you could just unfollow them. You can mute them and then you don't really have to like see or interact with them. But it's very hard to do that in real life.
Yeah.
Um it's like real life is not a curated space for like everyone, right?
Hmm.
Um And so because of that, I think there's like more sort of like hurdles to overcome. And when someone gets too comfortable being in a curated space, it's very hard, or it's just like more difficult to step out of that comfort zone.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, I think, I mean, we've probably talked about this before in another podcast, but it's just like, I think just the best way is just like, you don't really, I feel like it's really counterintuitive to like reach out, like, that's what I'm gonna, like, I don't know, I forgot what the word was for it. It's like, darn. English is hard, but like you're literally just going
English
out
is
of
hard.
your way to like reach out. I think that's a little counterintuitive. I think it's just like being available. I think that's like the best thing you could do. Just being available. Um, you don't have to be like a therapist. Like that's a
Yeah.
little extreme, but it's just like just being there and just kind of showing that like, oh yeah, it's okay. It's gonna be okay. I think that will really help with I guess like I mean, this doesn't pertain to just indie VTubers, but like anyone in general who like might not be able to like curate that, I guess, so and so real life, right, kind of thing.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think at the end of the day, that's what a community is, right? You're always going to be there for someone. Um, might not be like you shouldn't be like going out of your way to like put them in like a gathering or a party and be like, all right, everyone's your friend, good luck. Yeah, that's gonna kill them, right? So like so yeah, I mean, like in general, like social, like being social is hard. There's so many like nuances to it, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, and especially online, it's just like there's some like pretty dangerous stuff, like especially like if you're a streamer, if you're probably like ran to this like a few times already. It's like kind of like a, I mean, yeah, it's a parasocial relationship. Like,
Yeah.
um, personally, I don't think I've gotten anything that dangerous, but for you, I feel like there might have been some situations, especially like I guess like you've been growing at a pretty like consistent rate, so it's just like you've been probably you've been seeing some whack shit probably.
Yeah, I think so for from personal experience, I don't um I think in terms of parasocial relationships, I probably had maybe one like bad experience with that, and that was like when I was very first like just starting to get into streaming. I had like an average of like 2 or 3 viewers. Um I think there was one viewer who offered to help me like set up some stuff. I they were my Twitch mod for a little bit because I didn't know how to ban like chatters on Twitch yet, and I was like getting bots, and they were
Mm.
like, "Oh, here, like just mod me real quick and I'll do that for you." And I was like, "Okay, cool, thanks." Um and then they added me on Discord, which I was like, like just starting out, it's harder for I think it's something that we should be aware of is that like I feel like smaller streamers tend to get targeted by like malicious well, not necessarily malicious, but it's like people think it's easier to befriend like smaller streamers, right? Like they started DMing me like it was so weird that one time they sent me these because I streamed Genshin, right?
Mm-hmm.
As I always do. They sent me these like Genshin gift codes, and I was like, okay, cool, thanks. And then they like sent something else, and I like didn't reply because I went to sleep. And then
Uh-oh.
5 hours after they messaged me, they're like, Remi, like, hello, are you there? And I'm like, okay, first of all, like, we're not friends. Second of all, like, I don't have to be available to you 24/7. So that was like the one kind of like weird, uncomfortable experience that I've had in terms of like a viewer who tried to like maybe like get closer to me in that way. I think when it comes to also being a smaller streamer, it's harder to say no, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you see like big streamers and there's like people being weird in their chat, they just get banned or ignored. um but when you're a smaller streamer and you have someone that's like kind of being more uncomfortable to you like in chat, it's harder to sort of be like, hey, like don't do that, right?
Right.
um because I like it's hard to explain, but that's like how I felt. Because a while ago there was one viewer that like kind of made me a little uncomfortable. And so I was just kind of like, hey, like, can you not? But I was like still hesitant to do that, right? Despite the fact that streaming, like my channel should be a comfortable place for me to stream, and that like anything that makes me uncomfortable, I'm 100% like validated to ban them or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I was still hesitant to kind of like tell them off, right?
Right.
Um, because they were like, the only chatter, and it's just this strange sort of like dynamic. Um, and what I've also noticed is some of my other friends who are also hesitant to, sort of like cut off or like ban people who make like uncomfortable remarks from the start, right? Because it's like when they're not necessarily breaking any rules, it's hard to justify banning them. Like they're not passing the vibe check, but they're also not like explicitly breaking any rules.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh my God, what do I do? Right. But in the end, streaming should be a fun thing for the streamer and the viewers. And if someone is bringing that vibe down, like they should absolutely be removed. Um,
Right.
but what I have noticed is that it's smaller streamers tend to be more afraid of banning, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think it's like also it's like, oh, this person, especially it's like you're having like no chatters or no chat interaction or like low
yeah,
amount of viewers. It's like, oh, this person's at least like giving me the attention that like, so
right.
it's just like, do I really want to like lose that? But at the same time, it's just like, yeah, this guy's a fucking idiot. Drop his ass, right? But
Yeah,
like you really
yeah.
want to drop his ass, but you're like, but this guy's like actually like interacting, and I'm like,
Yeah.
right? Like I totally feel it. It's just like, yeah, and it's just like, yeah, you're in this dilemma, and it's like it's pretty like not it's not a good feeling. It's definitely not a good feeling. Yeah, I mean, also, I should have opened with this, but parasocial relationships, the definition of one, I finally like actually like like looked it up because we always throw it
Um,
around as streamers, and I
yeah.
finally copy pasted something in. So pretty much what they are, they're one sided relationships where one person extends like emotional energy, interest, time, whatever, and the other party, usually the streamer, has no idea that they actually exist.
Mhm.
Like sure, like there might be like some like interaction, and well that's because like the streamer's doing their job. It's like they're not gonna like ignore you if you say hi, right? Unless like
Yeah.
they're not having a good day or whatever. But at the same time, like yeah, and like that kind of like goes in like from that definition, you kind of just like notice from like your experience. It's just like, oh yeah, this is kind of like a huge expectation disparity, right?
Mhm.
Especially that one person that kept messaging you is like, it's like, yeah, you might have thought I was your friend, but like, I'm like not that close to you, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I think it becomes a lot more prevalent when like money is involved. It's like throw money, get results, right? That's like what might someone might be thinking, right? It's like, oh, if I keep giving them money, they're gonna like give me attention, which is true. They're gonna give you like, oh, thanks for the super chat, I guess, but like, yeah, they're like not obligated to like, I don't know, marry you or anything.
Yeah. And and it's like, while, as a streamer, I'm so grateful, right, for all the support that I've like received. Um and as a viewer, like because I also, watch a lot of my friends' streams and, like I'll give subs sometimes. And it's like I do that because I want to support them, right? It's like there there is this boundary of like appreciation and support um that I think a lot of people do understand, right? Is like especially people who are more familiar with Twitch, is that like there's sort of like an understanding that there is a boundary, right, between streamer and viewer.
Hmm.
um but like anything, there are exceptions, and that there are some people who don't see the boundary or will cross the boundary on purpose. Um, and I and it's hard to, like blame the content creator for that, right? Because it's like we can't really control what other people do, but we can what we can do is like set the boundaries, right? Like if someone oversteps it, we could be like, okay, please don't do that. Like, I'm not it it's like, okay, have you seen the Ludwig question? Was it Ludwig? The video where he's like, I'm not your friend, right? And he's
Yeah,
just talking
yeah,
about how a lot of his viewers are like, oh my gosh, like you like saved my life or whatever. And then Ludwig's like, I don't even know who you are. Like, how could I have saved your life? Right?
yeah.
Um, and I've seen like a comparison of like people comparing streaming to like watching TV, right? Because when you're watching a stream, the streamer is here to entertain, right? And as a viewer, we're here to enjoy the entertainment. Um, and the one sort of disconnect is that like when you're watching TV, like they don't interact back with you. Like they don't really like talk, actually interact with you, right?
Right,
And so as a form of entertainment, it's like people tend to feel more connected with streamers because there's like an interaction. There's like a back and forth conversation.
right,
Um and I think due to that, some people might mistake it as friendship, right? Or as like as some sort of relationship when in reality that's not how it is. Right. If I can think of any sort of like TV show that might have some sort of like pseudo interaction would be like Blue's Clues. Um, because Steve, he like talks, quote unquote, he talks to the audience
mm-hmm.
and quote unquote responds, right? But he's not actually talking to anyone, right? Um,
Mm.
but it's different. And then so it's like, obviously I was like, oh, I like watching Blue's Clues, but I don't think that he's my friend, right? Like I don't like, like I'm not gonna like slip into his DMs and be like, hey, respond to me in 5 hours or else, right?
Yeah.
but but it's different when it comes to streamers because despite still being entertainment, streamers I think are a lot more available or like reachable,
Right.
right? And I think like that can make the boundary a little more blurred for some people and they might not like see it as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and especially like I think like the interaction and for the interaction aspect, it's like there are ways for viewers to interact, right? And even like collabs are a form of interaction as well. But like as you said, it's just like yeah, at the end of the day, if I like actually don't haven't I mean it's for a general term, if I haven't like seen you in real life and like gotten a drink with you, chances are we're like probably not friends. Like we're acquaintances probably, but like yeah, I probably like wouldn't you shouldn't depend on me to like save your life or anything or like give you life advice. Like
Mhm.
I guess like there's so many examples of where like parasocial relationships going wrong. It's
Yeah.
like I'm pretty sure this is like happened to some of us content creators, but like trauma dumping, like that's like a lot more common than I thought it was. Like I don't know why people do it, but like it's just like it puts everyone in an awkward situation, right? It's just
It does.
like it's just
It's
like
so weird.
it's like someone like for example, like this hasn't happened, but like what if like someone like goes on a random person's stream is like, yeah, my dad died. It's like I'm a Caliber stream. What the hell am I supposed to say to that? Like the chat's like, what the fuck? Like, yeah, like I'm like, what the fuck? And then I'm like so jaded, like not jaded, but I'm like so like my attention's like by this viewer's dad dying that I don't even know if his like if it actually happened. Like, and I'm like, okay, then I lose, and I'm like, I feel like shit, and I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do now? Like it's just like not a good time. It's just like I don't know, like
Yeah, it's weird. I've had it happen to me, I think a few times. And yeah, it's like always like the first time chatters. Like literally one time I was like streaming. I was streaming Genshin, and someone comes in and was like, my dog died. What do I do?" And I'm like, "Man, I don't know how to tell you, but I'm I'm literally like a Twitch streamer, man. I am an anime mouse girl. Like, what am I supposed to do about your dog? Like, you should take care of that." Um, but it's hard to like sort of imagine like, us going into other people's chats and trauma dumping. Um, because that's like why would you do that, right? It just doesn't make sense. But it's um it might be like it, it's definitely like attention seeking, right? Like they're trying to get a reaction out of you. And it has happened to one of my friends also, is that they were streaming and someone goes into their chat and was like, "Oh, like my mom just died." And my friend's like, "I don't know what you want me to do about that." Right? Like
Yeah.
like what are we supposed to do? It just doesn't make sense. Aside from the fact that like they're just seeking attention.
hmm I think you
Um
should. I think the obvious answer now, from now on, if someone trauma dumps, it's like you do the thing from Gouda. It's like, thank you for the super chat. It's like, my dog died. Let's go.
Oh no!
Yeah, I feel I was like, what are you supposed to do? Like, I don't know. It's just like I don't know. It's just like like I've had like experiences with people like literally telling me that they'd off themselves. I'm like, okay, well, my
Oh
12 year old,
gosh.
my 12-year-old like growing individual won't like understand like how to process that. Like now I'm like older and I'm like, okay, I mean, yeah, but yeah, it's just like it puts the streamer at such a like a really awkward and bad position where it's just like, yeah, what the fuck do I do?
Yeah. It's just I don't know. I It's hard for me to sort of like wrap my brain around why, but it does happen
Yeah. Obviously it's
quite
like,
often at that. Yeah.
yeah, it could be like lack of social awareness, lack of empathy, like even just like I want to get a rise out of streamer today, so I'm just gonna like start trolling saying my dog died, right? It's just like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's just like, come on, bro. Like, yeah, I mean, and there's like other things. I mean, like, right? You say like Ludwig, like, yeah, like I'm not your friend. How did I save your life? It's like the same thing. Like life advice definitely is one of the. It's not as bad per se, but it's like, but like, I mean, some situations it's like, oh, yeah, I don't know how to help you, but I think you should just go to therapy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
'Cause like
all right, go
we're
ahead.
not, we're not therapists. We're not qualified to help you. I'm just here to play games, you know?
Right, yeah. Yeah, and it's just like, I guess, like, as I mean, Steel Guys, like hitting the sub button is cheaper than a therapy session. Yeah, like I guess, yeah, $5 for like maybe like a streamer to be like, all right, this you're like going through stuff and whatever and whatnot, but like, yeah, and honestly, like if you think about it, like, I mean, I got problems of my own. Like, I got to deal with my stuff first, right, before I like help someone else. So it's just like, what am I
Mhm.
supposed to do? Like, right? It's like there's a common pattern, I guess, if you like notice. It's like literally like, what are we supposed to do about this? And it's just like it happens, but like it's just like it's kind of like that clean right hook you get. It's like, huh? And you're like dazed, and you're like, yeah,
Yeah. It's always just like, "Huh? Like what?"
yeah. And it's just like, yeah, please, if you're out there, one therapy session, please. If it's melee, sure. Yes, I will. I will do all the thank yous at the end and whatnot. So yeah, don't worry, I have not forgotten. But yes, but like yeah, like especially for life advice, like there is an article from a very fast Google search, and it seems very credible. But it's like there's a general idea in our society, like right, if someone's like look like they have it all together. Like the reason why, like, I guess like for streaming especially, like you're like creating your content to look as good as possible, and sometimes like yeah, it looks very clean, like the outline and whatnot, so it looks successful, right? So
Mhm.
I guess by that logic, it's like, oh, we know how to deal with life. It's like, no, that's obviously not the case. We just have good, probably a more I guess a better eye for like graphic design than the average person. I don't know, maybe. I mean, yeah, but like, yeah, it's just like we. At the end of the day, like we're only human. Like, yeah, we're VTubers, but at the end of the day, we're only human, and there's only so much we could do, right?
Yeah. I think I think there's this sort of expectation almost, right? Because of how many sort of like online tutorials there are, like when you're on the internet, like you're gaining a lot of knowledge, right? Whether it's good or bad, it's like you learn a lot of stuff. And I think that sort of like medium of information being transmitted through a screen, people may see it as like more reliable, you know? Because it's like, oh, when I don't know how to do something, I'll look up a YouTube video, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like they tell me what to do and I'm like, "Oh, okay, well they know what they're doing." And I think that like seeing someone through like the screen might sort of give this like idea that they're I don't know how to how do I say this? It's like the similarity, right? That like you're seeing someone talking right through a screen. There's like maybe the brain makes a connection to um you know, like YouTube tutorials, and then they think that, you know, just because someone is on a screen that they are more knowledgeable, right? Like maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's why people go to Twitch streamers for advice. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess like the fact that we're broadcasting something, I guess like it's like, oh, we already know how to do something, right? And to a viewer,
Mhm.
it's like, oh, they've like set up this whole stream setup and whatnot, and they seem to be having a great time, which equates to happiness, which equates to getting your life together, apparently, possibly. And it's just like, yeah, it's like, oh, that's a great person. I should like ask for life advice about. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, depending on like the streamer's personality, like sure, I could give like general advice, like, but like if you hit me with like the heavy stuff, I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, like, but like, yeah, generally it's like because I'd like to think that most streamers are very genuine individuals. Like, they're usually going to like, especially for like smaller indie VTubers, it's like, yeah, I'll ask for, I'll probably like I'm more prone to give advice, I guess. But like
Mhm.
I guess it's more of like a challenge, but like I think to put your foot down and be like, okay, this is the line, and if you cross it, I won't like accommodate to your request, right?
Mhm. Yeah. And then it's like in the end it's like we're not like licensed professionals, right? To like give help. It's like
Mm-hmm.
all I can do is just offer my opinion. And
Yeah. And
maybe it's a good opinion and maybe it's a bad opinion, right? But that's
right.
like that's the only thing I can do for people, you know?
Right. And it's like on you if you want to take the advice or not, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can't just blame like anime fish guy or anime like mouse girl to like, oh, it's like they told me to do it. It's like no, like like no, that's not how it works. Sorry.
Mhm.
Right, but like I think with that all like kind of packaged and like we kind of like dove into this, like as you continue to like stream as a VTuber, like I guess what's your approach if like to anything that happens, like going forward, like if something like this happens, like kind of want to know like what you would do now. I guess it's just like, are you gonna like, yep, ban them on the spot, or like kind of like, I don't know, another approach, like, yeah.
Um, hmm, that's a good question. I still feel a little bad about banning people, right? Because, in the end, I'm still grateful that they enjoy my content enough to watch me.
Hmm.
Um, but I do think that, like, if somebody's making me uncomfortable, that there's no reason for me or anyone to have to put up with that.
Right.
Um, and so, maybe I'll be like, hey, like stop saying that, or like, hey, let's not talk about that topic or something. Um, And depending on how I guess, like, depending on how serious it is, it's like, okay, maybe they get 1 strike, maybe they get 2 striked, or maybe they get banned on the spot, right?
Hmm.
And I think it would also vary from day to day, right? Like, how much shit am I willing to put up with today? We'll
Right.
see.
Yeah, like I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Everyone's getting banned on spot. Like,
Yes, yes.
yeah, someone says hi.
A
All right,
ban for you,
bye.
a
Yeah,
ban for everyone.
yeah, yeah. Like, obviously, like the viewer won't know everything going on in our lives. So, like, sometimes, yeah, as you said, like, yeah, you're gonna get banned on the spot because you said this. Bye, bye. Right. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I think, yeah, I think it's like really good to address these kinds of issues, especially with like indie VTubers, because like um, as we've talked about before, like VTubing is a great way for people that might have like certain like social anxieties or kind of like issues that, yeah, they're probably like not gonna know how to deal with this stuff. Like this is like, especially like when they first start out streaming, like it's gonna be like so many new experiences on how Twitch culture works, even like YouTube culture if you stream on YouTube. But like, yeah, there's so many things, right? So it's just like kind of good to kind of have a game plan going in. And
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think there's, like, having sort of like clear boundaries on what you're okay with and not okay with as a streamer, I think will help a lot.
Mm.
Um to sort of, like draw out these lines beforehand so that if anyone does cross over them, it's easy to just be like, "Hey, stop." Right? Like, don't do that.
Hmm.
um and I know I've heard of people who, will sort of tolerate certain behaviors because they're like, "Oh, well, I don't have like that many viewers or whatever." Which I completely understand, right? But then in the end, for for someone to continue to want to stream, like their streaming experience needs to be a positive and comfortable one, right?
Hmm.
And so like in the long run, like that one person is not going to matter, right? Like it's not worth sacrificing your own comfort just to have one more viewer, you know?
Right. Yeah, I think it's just like a good like self diagnosis, I guess. It's just like, am I okay with this if this happened in real life? If the answer is
Mhm.
no, you should probably not tolerate it on the internet. Like, yeah, there might be some like push and pull, but like, yeah, I think just like knowing where you stand on certain things, and just knowing that is going to be really helpful when you deal with these kinds of situations.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think there's a very interesting like category of like, I guess indie VTubers in general, where like, or in streamers in general, like pretty much like streamers that only kind of cater to a certain community. I feel like parasocial like relationships don't really happen as much there, or like the toxic ones at least. Where like, I guess for example, like um personally, like I pretty much I'm known for a Soul Calibur 6 streamer. And
Mhm.
I stream anything else, yeah, I ain't getting shit. I don't get shit, right? So like, I mean that's okay in itself, but because obviously it's not about the numbers or anything, but it's just like I get the viewers I get. I pretty much know them in real life, and
Right.
it makes it a lot, I guess, more comfortable for me to like stream, because it's like, oh yeah, I know this person, I know this person, this guy is a competitor from like, I don't know, Florida or whatever, and like, yeah, I know exactly who I'm talking to or who I'm like broadcasting to, right? So it's just like a lot more comfortable for me, but like at the same time, like the reason why it's like there's less parasocial, like at least a toxic parasocial relationships, is because we're so niche, no one comes in, or like a lot less people comes in.
Right. It's
Yeah,
like everyone knows everyone kind of thing.
yeah, and yeah, so you kind of like trade your, I guess, like you trade your exposure for social safety, and I guess like that's okay in itself. Like by all means, like you stream however the hell you want, like, so like it's fine to do whatever, and just I just want to like I guess like, I don't know, show, I guess, the audience that there is like other options if you don't like dealing with that at all. I mean, even if you're like a variety streamer but you play like really like niche retro games or whatever, that's already like a small like community there, and all that stuff, because at the end of the day a channel is bound to grow like at one speed or another. Like you could be
Mhm.
streaming for like 5 years and only have like 200 followers. Well, 200 is more than zero, so good shit, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes like you just blow up overnight, and like bless, right? And so like at the end of the day, it just like kind of depends on, I guess, like who you're bringing in, and I guess what the target audience is, like, per se.
Yeah. And and it's like what kind of audience you want to cultivate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it's like, you like the audience chooses who they want to watch and you sort of choose what kind of audience you want to watch you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think having some sort of control over that is nice because it can reduce, like certain risks. Um, and it's like, yeah, blowing up overnight is great, right? It's like more exposure, more people watching you, but it also has a downside because there's more of a chance of um, someone who's gonna overstep boundaries to who's gonna like join um I forgot where I was going with this. I lost my train of thought.
No, you're good. You're good.
Um, Let me see.
Just hear the gears turning again.
Yes. But it's like, yeah, it's like anything. There's like positives and negatives to everything, and we can only do our best to sort of, curate our own space. Right.
Right. Yeah, and I guess like it's up to the streamer, right? It's like, would you rather have 200 people watching your stream but have like, I don't know, arbitrary number, like 25% of them be like idiots, right? Or just have like 10 viewers but like all of them are cool, right? And it's like whatever you could deal with, you just like whatever, pick your poison, right? And that's like what the kind of like channel you want to create, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And yeah. Wow, we actually got through everything. Okay. Well, is there anything else you would like to talk about, or if you have questions for me, that also works. And
Let's see. I don't think I have any particular questions. I did have something that I that I thought was funny that I thought of is when we were talking about how VTubing is still like despite how big it's blown up, it's still a very niche thing, right?
mhm,
Because not everybody watches streamers, right?
right.
Um I did have one experience. It was really funny is one of my like mom's like college friend's son I think earlier this year came like visited for like our family to have like a dinner or something like that.
Mhm,
And we were sort of talking and somehow the topic of streaming came up
mhm,
and like um this guy, he does not watch streams at all, right? He like I he didn't even know what a VTuber was. But it was really funny because I was like, "Oh, well, you might have seen like Hollow Live before." And then I pulled up a picture of Grua and he's like, "I've seen her." And I was like, "How have you seen her?" You're like a working like office person. You're like a very normal like I mean not like normal, right? Just like someone who's like disconnected from this world. I just thought that was really funny. I was like, why do you recognize Gura?
I mean, Gouda has been like on commercials, I think. I mean, like kind of as a
Yeah.
pop culture reference. Like I think she's been on a Taco Bell commercial or some shit like that.
Wait, I didn't know that. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
she was in a Taco Bell commercial. It was like a animated kind of thing, and like on a building, it's like you know how like New York Times Square has like LED walls and stuff. Yeah, they had like
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, 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 yeah. Like a Taco Bell nacho cheese. Yeah, yeah, that one.
Oh my god.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. See, someone knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, like especially with like I think like Gouda especially, it's just like yeah, this she's like kind of like the poster child of like VTubing, especially for the English
Yeah,
side.
she is like the face almost, right? Of like big VTubers.
Yeah.
I just thought it was so funny that like this person who I never would have thought to like know of VTubing like has seen Gura. And that I think that just shows like despite how niche like VTubing is that like it's it is blowing up and it is expanding and it's like getting more recognition and more people are starting to see it.
Mm.
And I am excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, like um especially like since we've been VTubing for almost a year, it's like definitely the scene has changed quite a bit. Like not like 180, but like we've definitely seen a lot of trends and whatnot like happen and all that stuff. So it's like yeah, especially when offline starts to happen,
Mhm.
it's gonna be some spice, I think. Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
did want to talk about this. Yeah, since you're in a group, right? You are in. I believe it's called the Hydrocalypse.
Yes. Well, it's not like an official group or anything, right? Like
Yeah.
like V Shoujo is like a very official group or um stuff like that. It's we're just four friends that kind of was drawn together and we were very close and we figured like, yeah, it couldn't hurt to just, do things together.
Hmm.
We're just here to have a fun time and clown around. That's all.
Yeah, because
Uh,
I did want to talk about that because like if you see like if we like kind of compare Hydrocalypse to like let's say like offline TV is that wow offline TV is an offline organization that creates content. Wow, who would have guessed? But the it's like you're watching this group, right? And you're like kind of following them on their journey. And it's just
mhm.
like kind of like, oh yeah, this person's growing in a certain way, or this person has this. Like pretty much it's like kind of like a sitcom kind of thing. It's like kind of like the show like Friends or How I Met Your Mother or like Big Bang Theory. It's like you're following this group of friends and they go on these adventures or whatever, or get into situations and you kind of like follow their growth. So I kind of like wanted to ask you about like okay so you have this offline group and then if we put that in a VTuber perspective it's like you see you're following like this group unofficial or not and kind of like I guess like you could say it's like kind of like a slice of life anime
Mhm.
like I'm wondering how you like feel about like that kind of like comparison because like I was just like wow this makes so much more sense but like I don't know maybe other VTubers will think it differently or whatnot.
That's really funny that you should say like slice of life anime because we did the four of us previously did like talk about how funny it would be if we like made um we had like I don't know like our own webtoon about like how we're like normal people during the day and then we like magically we like transform into our like VTuber selves at night as like a slice of life anime. I think it's really funny that you should mention that because we did previously have this conversation. Um, but I think that yeah, I mean I think it's nice to have a group that we all sort of like mutually support each other and we like all grow like together. We go to each other for advice or help and stuff like that. I think it's been a really good experience.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like thinking, just like, oh yeah, that does make sense. Because someone was like, well, the article was like, oh yeah, you're like literally watching like a series, kind of like a sitcom kind of thing. So I was like, wait a
Mhm.
second, if it's like VTubers and it's anime, oh wow, I see, I see. Because like, especially with Hololive EN doing a lot more collabs now, like literally every other day is
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
collab. Like I guess they're like switching their like style and stuff because Gen 1 really didn't do collabs, and then now Gen 2 it's like, oh yeah, it's Mume and Crony, and or Mume and Callie, or like yeah, and there's like collabs every other day, and I think it's just like a lot more interactive per se because the collab
Yeah.
and because of like the collab aspect, and it's just like, oh yeah, now it's like we're watching like more of this like ecosystem of like VTubing, like corporate
Right.
VTubing.
And it's like we like to like watch like the reason why we watch sitcoms in the first place is because we like to watch, other people interact and sort of relate to them through that.
Hmm.
And um and so I think that's why people like watching collabs too is we get to see sort of this like interaction, this other side of these VTubers.
Right. Like maybe like a VTuber is like really calm, and then all of a sudden it's like a collab, and they're like popping off and all that stuff, right? It's just like that dynamic. It's like, oh, like this is interesting. I want to see more, right? It's just like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I guess like that's another thing too with like parasocial like relationships and stuff, especially if you're like following a group. It's just like, oh yeah, I get to interact with this like pretty much I get to be in this slice of life anime by like throwing hundreds of dollars at them, right? Quote unquote. But like, yeah, obviously it's not gonna work like that. But like maybe
Yeah,
let's like, yeah. So remember kids, throw money, don't get results. Be careful about your money because although you might have the money to throw it at us, it's just like, yeah, only do it if you really enjoy our content and all that
yeah.
stuff.
And be responsible about it, right? I I'm not sure if it actually happened, but I did see a tweet where someone said like, "Oh, like someone went into debt to like buy an item off of a VTuber's throne list." And like, "Oh my gosh, like by all means do not do that." Like take care of your own needs first and foremost. And when you do sort of give monetary support, like do it because you like the content, right?
Hmm.
And not that you're like expecting anything out of it. And I think also it's like it's it's a responsibility on both sides, right? Like we can't expect the audience to just not form parasocial relationships, and then we can't expect only the streamer to just say like have complete control over the audience, right? So
Yeah.
it's like a responsibility on both ends to have this sort of boundary.
Hmm.
And it's like streamers should not like encourage parasocial relationships for the sake of monetary gain, right? Because that's like not you shouldn't do that from an
Yeah.
ethical standpoint,
Yeah, it's not very nice.
Um, yeah. And like it is sort of this like shared responsibility, and it's good to talk about it so that more people are aware because um like we as streamers, like we do hear a lot about that, but it's like maybe other people don't like know, right? Like maybe it's their first time even hearing the word parasocial relationship. So I think it's like a good thing to sort of talk about and like bring attention to.
Mm. Yeah. One more thing. You do chargebacks, I will find you. Like, Do you know what? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Chargebacks. Yeah, like there's already one thing going into debt, and then there's another level of like chargebacks because it's just like, oh my gosh, now you're like actually like putting my accounts in danger. Like, don't do that. It's so disrespectful. Like, and it's just like, I guess like that's another thing about like really dumb shit that could happen while you're streaming. It's like, oh, someone donates $900 to you, and you're like, holy shit, thank you for the money. Like, I have no idea where it came from. And then like, since usually they'll be connected to like a PayPal or like a Ko-fi or something, yeah, then they'll charge it back, and then Ko-fi's like, yo, what's going on here? And then they'll ban the account,
Yeah.
or like PayPal will
Yeah.
like freeze it, and you're like, but it wasn't my fault. But like, you're the one, your account was the one who was like handling that money. So it's just like, yeah, it's super disrespectful. Don't do it. Like, it's not illegal, but like, yeah, just it's like, please, with a capital P, don't do it.
Yes. Think twice before you throw money at your favorite streamer.
Yeah.
Right? Like double check everything.
It's like, do I
Make sure you
have
have the right number of zeros.
Yes, yeah, that too. Like, I don't like yeah, it gets bad. It gets bad, especially when money is involved. So like, and sometimes Twitch is a business, and sometimes shit will happen, and that's okay, I guess. But yeah, don't endanger your streamers. Don't endanger your VTubers, and yeah, we'll have a good time.
Yep. And don't endanger yourself. Do not ever go into debt to support a streamer.
Yeah, like
It's not worth it.
yeah, college debt sucks. But like, then someone asks you the reason why you're in actual debt, and you're like, I dropped it on Gouda. Yeah, yeah, that ain't good. All right. Well, as we are nearing the end of the podcast, I do want to thank everyone who actually followed. Like, I did not forget. I just did not want to break the flow of the podcast. So, Wolf Aether, thank you for the follow. Toby Tio, thank you for the follow. I don't know if I'm like pronouncing these. Yona, thank you for the follow. Suhai, thank you for the follow. Hopefully you had a good time. Ninjash, thank you for the follow. Steel Guy, thank you for the sub. Prime sub, you the homie. You will get your therapy session one day. And Dentarion, thank you for the follow. All right, now we are at the end of the stream. You made it. You have pretty much dealt with me for 2 hours, so you get to chill and shout out anything you would like to your heart's content.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me onto this. It was very, very fun to talk about. And I do think these are important topics. And in terms of shouting out, I don't really have anything. I don't know. I mean,
Oh.
um, I mean, I did hit like 1.7K on Twitter overnight, which is insane.
Oh my gosh.
I went from 600 to 1.7K, and I don't know where everyone is coming from, but I hope you all
Congratulations.
enjoy my shit posts. I guess, yeah, I don't know. What do I even do? Another art raffle? I guess I'll
Whatever
shout
you would
that out.
like. Yes.
Anyways, if you all want a chance to get some free art, I may or may not do another art raffle soon.
Yes, on your Twitter, I assume, right?
Yes.
Yes, go follow Remi on Twitter. I believe it's twitter.com or something /
Yeah, something.
yeah. And then it's either com or net, I forgot. / Remi_Chu with 2 U's, I believe.
Yes.
Yes. And yeah, and then her Twitch, as always. Is it also the same thing? I'm pretty sure.
Same thing, just without the U's at the end. It's Remi_ and then CH.
Yes. Yeah, and yeah, make sure to follow her if you want to see top quality shit posts, jeans that are not actually jeans, and art raffles. Yes.
Top quality is questionable, but
yes, and I think what else is there? I think there's a Yeah, and I think that's about it. Oh yeah, you're playing Hollow Knight at the moment right now as well?
I am, yes. I
Yes.
do plan on streaming more with my very non-scuffed, high quality setup. Yes, unregistered Remi cam.
I'm gonna. I saw the thumbnail. I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, okay, I know you're Queen of Scuff, but like, this is top quality. Like, I don't know. Maybe the whole entity of Remi is just like Scuff and like shit posts.
I have to maintain the brand. That's my branding at this point.
Scuff and shit posts. All right.
I know. I was actually so surprised because I ended up streaming Hollow Knight for like 9 hours, I
Holy
think.
fuck.
Um, because Hollow Knight is so fun, right? Oh yes, shout out to Hollow Knight for being a great game. Oh, but it was like I I'm so surprised that like people watched it because later, like the next day, I looked at the VOD and like I was watching it and like 3 seconds in, my eyes started hurting. I was like, how did people watch this?
So you were filming your Switch and then used
Yes,
that. Okay. Wait, there's a
yes, I was.
sequel to this game apparently.
Oh, really? I did not
Uh,
like DLC, or is there like a Hollow Knight 2?
I wouldn't know. I should probably play
I
Hollow
don't know
Knight soon
either.
as well. I'll wait for it to go on sale.
It gets pretty cheap when it's on sale.
Hmm.
Even at full price, I think it's like worth what you get out of the price.
Mm. Does that include DLC or there's no DLC?
I think there's DLC.
Ah, okay.
I
You,
believe there is DLC.
yeah.
I'm not
Um,
sure how where.
I don't know, Steam or whatever. Yes, yes. And I guess like yeah, if you also want to follow Hydrocalypse, there's also Suhai, Rushing, and Milan, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes, so follow those. I don't have their credentials or their socials, but you will find them somehow. Oh yeah, you can also join
Yes.
the Discord. You can also join the
It
Remi
will show up.
Discord. That will it'll also be there. And yeah, I think that would be all for the plugs. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Any final remarks before we probably send it over somewhere?
I nothing from me. Just thank you everyone for coming and like tuning in on this conversation. Is I feel like we did talk about a lot of good stuff, and I hope everyone um is enlightened. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. And
Had a good time.
once again, thank you for coming. I do really appreciate you coming because I don't know. For me, it's always like, okay, I'm gonna ask this person to be a guest, and if they say no, I'm gonna be really bad, sad, and all that and whatnot. But but yeah, yeah. Like so far, yeah. It's been really fun. I'm glad that we were able to talk about a lot of the things that we talked about today, and yeah, like it's fun. Thanks, Kari. Gonna watch the VOD. Yes, I
Yeah.
will have the VOD on my YouTube as well. That's pretty much it's my excuse of a cloud. But if you missed the VOD, then I will have the link of the VOD up on Twitter once I upload it and whatnot. So yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter, then yeah, my Twitter's right there, and on the stream somewhere. But yeah, that will be my shill of the yeah. So Remi, since you are our guest, who would you like to raid?
Uh, wow, that's a good question. Let's see. It was really okay, okay. Let, let me tell you how I'm looking at my followed, like live followed channels right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw Ninomae underscore Karei, and I was about to be like, huh, what if we rated Karei? But I realized I'm on your stream right now.
Holy shit! Holy fuck.
Let's see. Let's see. No, see, I get brain farts a lot. I do get brain farts a lot. Valkyrade? Nope.
I've never rated myself before. I feel like it'll just go back to the chat and like nothing will happen. But no, please do not. No, I am not an option.
Let's see. We could go to Yona. Let's go to Yona. Yona underscore CH.
Oh yeah, that would be a great
Yeah.
option. I think. Okay, underscore CH. Okay.
And she's super great. She's playing is this Apex? I don't know. The category is
TF2.
still just padding, but
She's playing TF2, it seems.
oh, I don't know what any of these games look like.
I'm not answering that yet. Okay. Well, thank you for coming to the stream once again. We will raid Yona.
Yes, thank you all.
Yes, and we'll start the raid. That's Apex? Oh shoot. I thought okay, I saw the thumbnail and it was whack. Okay. I'm dumb. Whatever. It's fine. Okay. Yeah, and see you around. I'll probably be streaming later tonight for Caliber, but yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, exciting. You have a good stream.
Yep. I will try my best to not die. All right, good night, and we will raid now. Boom.
Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Okay.